The only way to become a good person, or to make a better society, is by studying goodness.
Is it though? I mean, seriously, I can think of plenty of ways to get good, most of them involving playing video games, and the rest involving drinking everyone else under the table. No one's defeating you at anything if they can't even stand up. Also, that assumes that you want society to be better. As far as I can tell, that's not really what Prager wants. Seems to me that you lot want society to be really, really stupid. But only because of all the videos of yours that I've seen. And god damn, that is so much dumb.
Many people think all you need to do good or be good is to have good intentions.
Do they? I don't even know anyone who's ever stated such an idea out loud, that's for sure. I think most people would agree that doing or being good requires that most disgusting quality of all, effort. God damn. The people who have it right, in my reckoning, are the thoughts and prayers lot. You get to pretend that you have done something of value by simply saying a few words to someone. I'll pray for you, or you'll be in my thoughts, and then bam, you get to smugly feel like you are better than that person. And the really sneaky part is, you don't even have to do any thinking or praying, because what the fuck are they actually gonna do? Brilliant. Unlike those losers who actually offer tangible help to people or financial aid. What a joke! That means you have less time and stuff. What's the point of that shit?
But
sorry.
You can no more be good without studying how to be good than you can play piano without studying how to play piano.
You can absolutely learn how to play the piano without studying how to play the piano. There are these things called keyboards and also organs, and even these days various virtual reality apps that gamify the fuck out of such an experience. And okay, maybe that's just semantics, but he also used the word study, and you could sit in front of a piano and just dick around and absolutely figure out how to play some simple songs. No study required. And hell, you could probably become pretty good if you spent enough time doing it, even though you probably aren't going to become the next Beethoven, but you will absolutely be able to play the piano. So that's just such a terrible analogy. Also, I'm pretty sure that dog never really knew how to play the piano anyway.
Or practice medicine without studying medicine.
Ha! Tell that to the woo peddlers. They do that shit all the time. They will throw a bushel of twigs at your head while you clap and stand on one leg, and then claim that they've cured your cancer that they diagnosed from the fact that you get a funny pattern on your leg when you sit on a bunched up blanket, and call it good. No, again, I think you're confusing doing something with doing it at like a high level. But, and I hate to do this, even woo peddlers can on occasion learn to treat simple illnesses with like plants from which the better actual medicine was derived. And again, someone can teach themselves to play an instrument to a certain degree without any external input. I mean, where do you think these things come from? Someone had to figure out this shit in the first place, meaning you could absolutely figure out how to do good all on your lonesome. People do it all the fucking time.
There's a word for the study of goodness and how to make a good world.
Lame. You don't want to be lame, do you? You want to be cool. And to be cool, there's only one thing you can do. Wear sunglasses indoors. And if you don't have any indoors, do it at night, especially somewhere with no streetlights. Being completely unable to see is a small price to pay for being completely awesome. Ow.
Wisdom.
Ah, wisdom. That's a word that gets thrown around a lot today, and it seems to me that it's starting to gain the same meaning as common sense. That is to say, people call things common sense or wisdom if it aligns with how they see the world, and if it doesn't, no matter how actually effective it is or if it better reflects reality, I don't like it, it's bad, aka not wise. When how it should actually be used is to affect animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. Yes, that is a D&D joke. Go watch Spoon Stuff Stories now.
Unfortunately, however, for much of the last century, few schools, and even few parents, have taught wisdom.
Translation: schools and parenting are not teaching the things that I like as much as they used to. That being, goddamn real, goddamn good, goddamn tell you what to do or you am bad. Even though as we have stopped teaching those things, people's average quality of life has only really gone up, almost as if those things aren't necessarily all that wise, and did nothing toward making the world a better place, or making people good.
The result is moral chaos.
Moral chaos? What the fuck is that supposed to even mean? Do you mean people having different moralities from each other? Because how has that not always been the case? Or does it mean that people have come to moral conclusions that are, again, not the same as yours? But on that point, it would seem that in the chaos, people who don't follow your moral whatever are perfectly able to be extremely happy and live good lives. Weird that.
Most of the wisdom of Western civilization, the civilization that has been the most successful in history in making good societies, comes from the Bible.
Are you sure about that, Sunshine? Because I would argue that most of what made the societies you are talking about successful and generally pretty good places to live happened in spite of the Bible. The rules for living and life in the Bible do not speak to nearly anything that we see today. They in fact mainly speak to people who lived, 2,000 to 3,000 years ago in the Middle East, and that only someone trying their absolute best to ignore all the things that we today find absolutely abhorrent in that book were actually fine back then. So it would be hard to even remotely claim that the Bible has had such a good impact on them societies that he is talking about. When generally, if you followed the rules of that book to a T, you'd probably end up in jail. And the groups of people who do try their best to do so are often considered complete fucking lunatics by the rest of society, including many religious people, because deep down, you must know that it's at best an extremely flawed book to base any kind of morality on.
That's why the Bible is the most influential book ever written.
Being influential and being a good thing that is worth a damn are not the same thing. And again, what you said is simply not true. The things that influenced what you are talking about most are enlightenment values, a time when people stopped following religious dogma quite so much and started trying to actually figure out what the best way to run societies and treat people well were. Unfortunately, when something becomes popular, Bible thumpers will often come along and say, "Oh, that's what we were saying the whole time," even though 5 minutes ago they were saying the complete fucking opposite. It's actually really goddamn infuriating.
So I'll share with you some of the wisdom from just one book of the Bible.
Steve's big book of doing a wise. But I don't know why you would want to do that. That guy really isn't all that wise. In fact, he's so unwise, they actually took him out of the Bible. That's why you all didn't know what I was talking about when I brought it up. Imagine that. Being too ridiculous for the Bible to contain it. And that fucking thing has zombies and unicorns in it. God damn.
The fifth, Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy? No, it's called Dudism. It's the philosophy of the dude who abides and requires the consumption of ungodly amounts of milk-infused alcoholic beverage and telling Donnie to shut the fuck up.
1. Do not show partiality in judgment. Chapter 1, verse 17.
Okay, that is an absolutely hilarious place to start. Basically, do not judge things based on your preferences. Well then, just because the Bible said it doesn't mean it's good, dumbass. And that's not forgetting the fact that the idea of fairness is hardly an idea either original or, unique to the Bible. So that's another example of them attempting to take credit for things that they are not due. There is another word for that. I think they call it stealing. Pretty sure there's a book that says that's a bad thing. Ironically, also not an idea original to it either.
A compassionate society is built on justice, not compassion. That might sound counterintuitive.
Only because it's dumb. A compassionate society is built on both. And in my opinion, you can't have real justice without some form of compassion. And you can't have real societal compassion without some form of justice. I assume you only like it your way because justice sounds cooler. And compassion is for them lame liberals. But frankly, a compassionless justice system sounds absolutely fucking terrifying. It's the sort of system that would treat a homeless man trying to feed himself by stealing a single loaf of bread the same way way as they would treat a millionaire banker stealing yet more millions from far poorer customers, possibly including have caused the original homeless man's major problem in the first place. But we all know that the man trying to feed himself should be sent to jail and completely forgotten about forever, and the millionaire should get a slap on the wrist, a tussle on the hair, and put under house arrest at worst. I mean, he only got rich from taking other people's money. What are they meant to do? Punish him for his actions so that others don't do it too? That doesn't sound right. And also, his expensive lawyer told us no.
But while we should be compassionate in our private lives, the state must be preoccupied with justice.
So if you didn't get it, my point about compassionless justice systems is that it will only help those who can play it because they already have the money and or influence to manipulate it. But those who don't are often crushed under the weight of justice that lacks compassion. When really what should happen for true justice, again, my opinion, is the person who actually needs help gets help. And the person who potentially ruined countless lives should actually receive adequate punishment. And while criminal justice systems often attempt to achieve this, I think we all know that they fail far too often. But ultimately, and more importantly, on the point at hand, I don't think any application of the fucking Bible is going to fix anything. And considering its general punishments for crimes were often fucking despicable, I would rather it stayed as far away from justice or compassion as goddamn possible.
That is the reason for this law. Judges are forbidden not only to show favor to the rich, but also to the poor. The purpose of a judge is to dispense justice.
Now, I think you'll find the purpose of a judge is to judge things. The hope is that they do justice, but the very nature of human beings is that they have biases. They will favor people and push back against others, whether they mean to or not. The fact of the matter is, it is a well-known thing that certain judges will have various interpretations or interests that will make them lean one way or another. And the very fact of that is why we have things like appeal and higher courts that often have multiple judges involved to get broader opinions. None of this comes from the Bible. These are systems that we have developed because we know that some singular opinion of an all-powerful asshole will never be able to dispense anything even resembling true justice.
2. Do not be afraid of anyone. Also chapter 1, verse 17.
Okay, can't wait to see where you're going with this and how it could be anything other than really fucking terrible piece of advice. The sort of shit Andrew Tate would say, while also constantly trying to intimidate people into doing what he wants, as if that's not a contradiction. Should we be afraid of you or not, mate? Make your fucking mind up. I mean, I'm not, but that's because I've never been afraid of clowns.
Every human being has fears. The question is, whom do we fear?
The correct answer is Sir Sick, but only if you've stolen my whiskey. If you haven't, then you'll be fine, till I eat the planet. But that's kind of beyond worrying about, like how if there's a meteor on course to explode the planet that you can't see, what are you going to do about it? Sit there shitting your pants, or are you going to get on with your life? By the time you realise you're fucked, you will probably already be dead anyway. But yeah, you whiskey thieves, you watch out. I could be anywhere, even right behind you. Oh my god! Haha. Made you look as if I ever leave my fucking house. There's people out there.
And for most people, only if you fear God will you not fear men.
Well, that's fucking stupid. And that speaks to me as someone who never truly has been in any kind of life-threatening situation or never been in a position where they could get seriously hurt or killed and know that fucking God wasn't going to do shit about it. I mean, good for you, but it makes you sound naive as There's nothing wrong with a healthy bit of fear, especially of dangerous people. God ain't going to do shit to protect you, and you aren't going to get some magical recompense for your suffering. But that is only because God isn't fucking real.
Pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of the few Germans to actively oppose the Nazi regime, and who was executed for doing so, feared God more than Hitler.
Christ on a bike, I hope that's not the only reason that he did it, because that really shits on personal agency. That would make the things that he did to resist the Nazis lose a bit of its heroism, and that's a bit sad. Someone who does good because they feel it in their bones that it is just the right thing to do, that's an amazing person. Someone who does good because God will be mad if they don't, is that even good at all? I mean, it's not strictly good on purpose. One hopes it's more along the lines of being inspired by Jesus or their interpretation of God to do good, which would be completely different, frankly, and far more noble than I did the right thing because I didn't want to get into trouble. Because it has to make you wonder if they would have done so otherwise. Now, I am being a bit shitty, and it's not to downplay his efforts, and that he didn't ultimately do the right thing, because even the right thing for the wrong reason is overall better than doing nothing or bad. But there are so many people that do right because they feel that is what is right, regardless of any god or gods. And to me, that's just a bit more impressive.
If more Germans had feared God more than they feared Hitler?
Well, here's the problem with that. It depends on what you think God wants. German soldiers had God with us written on their uniforms. So what makes you think that they didn't fear God more than Hitler? And that had they not done what they were doing, that they would have been angering God? It's just another problem with saying, follow the Bible and you'll be good. But then the umpteen zillion different interpretations of what the Bible really means suddenly make that a completely meaningless thing to say. And yet, when we disregard the Bible and instead focus on what's good for people and what makes them happy and healthy, we end up coming to a lot of the same conclusions as each other, almost regardless of whatever base worldview you started at.
And if more Russians had feared God more than they feared Stalin, tens of millions of people would not have been murdered.
Same applies. Even if they were all religious and of the biblical persuasion, that wouldn't necessarily affect what interpretation they went with. There are many people who think what happens, happens, and going against God's plan is a bad thing, so would have done absolutely nothing about Stalin's regime. See how this shit doesn't work the way you seem to think it does. A tome that has millions of followers, but none of them can agree on some of its most basic ideas, is not something that you should ever use to base any kind of society on, fucking ever.
3. You will find him if you seek him. Chapter 4, verse 29.
Well, we all know what that means. If you want to believe in God, keep looking until you do. It's the exact same thing that flat earthers do. They will keep looking to prove the flat earth until they do, but only to themselves. But what's the point of believing something that's actually true when you can believe something that no one else does, and therefore you're super special? Yeah, it's not the best way to discover things that are actually, real.
Just as finding a spouse can take years of searching, so too finding God can take years of searching.
Hilarious. Because sure, but that doesn't mean that they were the right spouse, or indeed the right God.
But, like a good spouse, the effort is worth it. Without God, life has no ultimate, no objective meaning.
So what? Do you need that in order to be happy? I feel sorry for you if that's the case. And second, even with a God, that doesn't mean that there is anyway. A God could have made all the things and still have done it for no reason, with no specific purpose in mind for it or any of the things that emerge therein. And just because someone made up a God that does do that, doesn't mean that one's real, or any of them for that matter.
If there's no God, every one of us is as insignificant as a grain of sand.
You think you're as significant as sand? You know how long and how much effort/energy it takes to turn a rock into a grain of sand? And the sand sticks around and makes a lovely beach. Humans just come along and fuck them up by existing on them when I want to be there. Pricks.
It's not a coincidence that as fewer Americans take God and religion seriously, suicide and depression rates have risen dramatically.
Okay, the reasons for suicide vary wildly, and preventing them is an important problem no matter the numbers. But, they're happening because people aren't doing what I say, is just fucking gross. Especially when you have no fucking idea why, and I'm pretty sure your supposed correlation doesn't even fucking exist. Otherwise, I think you would have shown it, even if it was spurious at best.
4. You shall have no other gods before me. Chapter 5, verse 7. We have more gods in modern life than idol worshippers had in the ancient world. Just to cite one of a dozen examples, many secular people believe in science the way religious people believe in God and the Bible.
That's not true, because when people believe in science, it's because science works and does things. When people believe in God, it's despite the fact that God does absolutely fucking nothing. It's not the same thing.
But there's a big problem with that. Unlike God and the Bible, science has nothing, simply nothing, to say about good and evil or about the meaning of life.
And that's why no one actually uses it to do that, you fucking idiot.
5. Love God with all your heart.
Do you know what? I'm done. If the best you can do to convince me that the Bible is necessary to make the world a good place is to say that God demands that I love him, that's just fucking pathetic. No wonder Dennis can relate.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. No, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the